And so you've obviously you teach at a seminary. You've traveled the globe. You've met brothers and sisters who don't really agree with you on your view. What counsel would you give to people as they're thinking through this? Like, you might land somewhere. I think personally, you need to land somewhere on your convictions on this. So, yeah, how do you agree to disagree on this, or what should you agree on?
Yeah. One is to remember what you share. Okay, that's the starting point. You all share a commitment that there is a physical return of Christ to the earth to resolve the fall, really, in the end, and to make things right. Okay, all the views that I've talked about share that, and the church, when in its orthodoxy, has always confessed the physical return of Christ to establish righteousness on the earth. So everybody shares that.
Yeah.
And then the question is, all right, so what do the details look like? And so just to keep the food metaphor, is it a ham sandwich? Do you want chips on the side?
Nice.
Or not, that kind of thing. So it gets down to the details of how this is resolved. And then everyone is contending that their particular way of putting things together is the most consistent across the Bible. That's what produces the difference. And depending on how you weigh certain passages and weigh the progress of Scripture about certain promises, impacts in some cases what particular view you take.
Yeah. Do you have, I guess, for those of us, myself included, who might get a bit caught up? So, I mean, at the moment, reality is in the world. COVID's hit, and people are looking at end times all of a sudden and wondering if this is it and this is it. How do we focus on the main thing?
Okay, two things I'll say. First is there have been a lot of predictions that this is the end, and here's the Antichrist, and here's the one world organization. Fill in the blank. It's going on for centuries.
Yeah.
And I don't know what figure of speech to use that is related to a sport in the Commonwealth, because in the U.S. we call it batting average. I guess you're hitting. I can do it. I can deal with cricket. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, go for it.
The hitting average so far is the equivalent of a duck. Okay. In cricket. Okay. Yes. No runs. No one's been right up to this point. All right. All kinds of predictions, but no one's got it right yet, which tells you the chances of your getting it right are not good. Yeah. Okay. So I tell people, you got to be careful about making a one-to-one and thinking that this is it. Okay. Yes. And in fact, there's a wonderful passage that helps us in this regard. It's in Acts chapter 1, and the disciples come after spending 40 days with Jesus, and they ask, is this the time you're going to restore the kingdom to Israel? So they want to know, is this it? Okay. And then earlier they had asked, how do we know certain things are going to happen? That was what triggered the Olivet Discourse. And Jesus responds and says, it's not for you to know the times and the seasons that are the Father's, basically, is his answer, which is a fancy way of saying it's none of your business. Okay. And it's another way of saying, and you're not going to figure it out.
Yeah.
Okay. Because only God knows the timing of when this is going to happen. And in the meantime, I'm asking you to be witnesses. You're going to be filled with the Spirit, and you're going to take the gospel to the ends of the earth. So we've been given an assignment in the meantime that we're supposed to stay focused on.
Yeah.
And so I tell people, the Scripture tells us to be alert for the end and to believe that Jesus is going to come back and to look forward to it. And the way we're alert is by being faithful. And we're faithful to the calling that we're supposed to have. So eschatology is the reminder we have nothing to worry about. Righteousness is going to win. We're going to get redeemed. No matter what we go through, God has us in his hands.
That's
okay. And on the one hand, in the meantime, we're called to be faithful to that which God has asked us to do, and let God be God and keep what's his business, his business.
That's a wonderful way, a great summary as well. And I guess as I'm looking at the time, I'm just quite curious. I know this wasn't in the things I sent you. How did you come to faith? It'd be good for people, for those who are exploring the Christian faith.
I came to faith over a long period of time. I had a lot of people who wanted me to be a believer, who witnessed to me over time. I thought when they initially shared with me, they were absolutely crazy. I did not grow up in a Christian home. Okay. And eventually my my first roommate in college was a believer who lived out a very consistent life. I saw that there was something in his life that wasn't in mine. And that was true of other people who had shared with me as well. And over about a 5 year plus period, eventually I came to the point where the Lord opened up my heart to what he was saying and entered into my life. And the rest, as they say, is history. So I do a lot of reading, as you can see, looking behind me.
Yeah, I can say that. Yeah.
And people joke with me, have you read all those books? And my response is some of them twice. And so so it's been a lifelong pursuit of not just study, but also thinking through what it means to live well and encouraging people to do the same. And I think there's no better way to live well than to be in harmony with you in your walk with God.
That's a beautiful way. What are you reading at the moment?
I'm reading books. Not rereading. I'm reading books right now on an element of anthropology called personalism, which is trying to deal with the issue of race.
Yep.
And critical race theory.
Yep.
And diversity and pluralistic culture. That's where cultural engagement has me.
Yes.
And so I'm reading stuff on personalism, which is the idea that our identity is embedded in us relationally, that the idea of an individual, an isolated individual, is actually a misnomer. That we're all connected in a variety of ways in a series of relationships with people around us that help to form who we are, and that we should see our personhood in relationship to that, which opens us up to be relating well to God and relating well to others, the great commandment, etc. So I'm reading stuff on a question pretty basic: what's the human person?
Okay.
Put you in discussion with the image of God, brings in the idea of stewardship, that we were created to manage the garden in which God placed us well. That's Genesis 1. And the subdue the earth idea, which means to manage our relationships with one another, to cooperate with one another. I like to say God didn't promote the creation from good to very good until he created man and woman in his image, and that we were designed to interact together in a cooperative way to help manage the garden well.
Wow. Sounds very simple to study.
It is simple. It's simple to say, and we struggle to do it.
That's true. That's a very good, insightful, Daryl. And tell us a little bit the Hendricks Center. Tell us a little bit for those who don't know.
It's the Hendrick. Full name is the Hendricks Center for Christian Leadership and Cultural Engagement. I manage the cultural engagement side. We do a weekly podcast called The Table. Welcome to The Table. We discuss issues of God and culture.
Yeah.
And you can find it at voice.dts.edu/table podcast. And we discuss a whole array of how Christianity impacts our relationships and how we should think about those relationships, particularly more troublesome areas that people struggle with and that kind of thing. In fact, this week, the Table podcast, we post fresh every Tuesday. It'd be Tuesday night and Wednesday morning for you.
Yes.
But anyway, this week, for example, we're discussing in detail the theological significance of being made in the image of God.
Thank you.
And last week was Generation Z and anxiety, dealing with the whole impact of COVID and what that's doing to young people. So it runs the array. We discuss race, sexuality. It's a whole array of issues tied to how our faith connects to the world around us.
Okay. Are you writing a book at the moment?
I am not writing a book at the moment. It's the first time in a long time where I'm not actively writing a book. I just finished a draft with another author on technology, on the virtual church. And wrestling with the question of how should we view technology in the church, the positives and the negatives, that kind of thing. That's coming out early next year. I've just released a book called Cultural Intelligence, Living for God in a Diverse Pluralistic World, which is an attempt to say that the church needs to think about how it relates more effectively to the world around it rather than just complaining. And so it's particularly aimed at the American church and the issue of culture war, which I think has done more damage to the church than benefit, because I think we've fought it on an unbiblical basis.
Well, friends, that's our time with Dr. Daryl Bock. Daryl, I just really want to say thank you. I know it's getting late for you, and it's morning for us. We're just starting the day. You're about to end your day. So appreciate your time. I would encourage you that look up Daryl and look up the work that they do, and particularly the podcast that he said. It's been so super beneficial for me in my own spiritual walk, but also as a pastor and leader as well. Any last comments?
Oh, it's my pleasure to be with you. I miss being in your end of the world.
Yes.
It's a little bit of a swim.
Yes.
So I just can't dive into the ocean and get there. I've got to find a better means.
Yeah.
And that's been, kind of restricted from our availability these days, but I hope to get there and see you face to face one of these days soon.
Yeah, Lord willing, we look forward to that. That'd be great. All right. I'm going to stop that.